Welcome to the Fourth Branch program. Glad you can make it. I am MD. This program is dedicated exclusively for those with common sense, a spirit of patriotism, and a determination for a more perfect union. Stay tuned as we begin the discussion of a very important, interesting, and enlightening topic. Hope to hear from you soon. Happy listening. January 20th, 2017. The 45th President of the United States took an oath of office. Since then, there has been one consistency about the administration of Donald Trump is to lie to everyone about everything. You see, to lie to millions of people, keep them in ignorance. Ignorance is the biggest threat to any democracy. It is, however, the ignorance of the ignorance which represents the greatest danger to society. It is what turns an ignorant man into a lunatic. Thus lies the danger, the peril even of a man, a community, a state, a country, yes, even a society. John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, said that the ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of us all. Indeed, it does. We've seen it, have we not? We've witnessed it. We are all living it, are we not? All men are born ignorant. Many have chosen to stay and live in ignorance. Only a few recognize ignorance is indeed the root and stem of all evil and choose to be ignorant no more. Hello everyone, I am MD and this is the Fourth Branch program. First, a warning. This program is not suitable for all audiences. I repeat, the content of this program is not for everyone. To find out if it's suitable to you, answer the following two questions. Question 1. Would you entrust your teenage daughter to a non-rapist? Question 2. Would you have a non-pedophile cared for your toddler? Once again, question 1. Would you entrust your teenage daughter to a non-rapist? Question 2. Would you have a non-pedophile cared for your toddler? your time is up, obviously. If you had difficulty answering either question, this program is not for you. If you answer yes to either or to both questions, this program is definitely not for you. But if both of your answers are absolutely not, this program is catered exclusively to you. You should stick around. It is enlightening, educational, and informative. Join me here on the 4th branch at 10:30 a.m. every Saturday. And every weekday at 2 p.m. This is the 4th branch.
Common sense in a world of chaos.
This program will resume in just a moment. The Mueller's investigation is what currently preoccupies everyone's mind these days, for good reason, of course. You see, for the first time in the history, in the existence of the Republic, an individual who is by any analysis, by any measure, the least competent, the least qualified for the presidency, managed not only to outwit seasoned politicians, baffled political expert analysts, and deceived a whole nation by collaborating with a foreign entity to become the 45th president of the United States. Although that conclusion was quite obvious from the very beginning. And you don't have to be a political expert, a political analyst, but it was more or less obvious. GOP legislators who took an oath to protect the Republic and defend the nation from all enemies have instead joined that very individual who is proven to be a traitor in his own right. I reason that maybe, just maybe, it is possible that many other Republican legislators were not just aware of this problem, the collaboration between Trump team and Russia, but were also involved in the whole scheme. For a complete analysis of this, because it is not new to me, I strongly refer to you to the article "Trump Collusion with Vladimir Putin is not a theory." Yes, many months ago, in fact in 2017, I published this article. As Mr. Mueller has begun to round up the people at the top, those who are and were very close to Trump and his campaign, it is becoming very clear, as outlined in the article, that Donald J. Trump played an important, active, critical role in the treasonous act of collaborating with a foreign entity. Despite a PR campaign by both Trump legal team and the Republican propaganda machine, Fox Propaganda, who is known and referred to by most as Fox News, it seems that, the Bible is right after all. No one shall leave the earth without paying the last iota. It is expected. I expect that Donald J. Trump and cronies' sentencing, verdict, and punishment will be forthcoming. There is no escaping it. There is no denying it. There were a lot of noise, a lot of defending Donald Trump, a lot of accusing Robert Mueller and the individual who are helping with the investigation. In other words, the hell with patriotism, the hell with the country, as long as it is possible to derail whatever is being done to expose an individual who has, by all analysis, not only deceived millions of people, but jeopardized our national security, but on top of that, damage our institution and pretty much trample our democracy. It is indeed tantalizing to spend the whole day talking about it and to debate and present argument and examples of how bad it has been for the past couple of years. As tantalizing as it is to dwell on this matter, here at the fourth branch, our goal, our focus is more long-lasting than just the presidency of Donald Trump. We are much, much hopeful that Donald Trump will meet with his most deserved fate, which is to pay for the crime he had committed to the United States. But here at the fourth branch, we will continue the conversation about the most important topics that impact the whole country, topic that impacts more than just a few individuals, topic that can determine between, a better life, a better future, better generation than spending the time discussing the fate of Donald Trump. As you will see, if you care to take a look at that article that was written on April 2017. No, not this year, April 2017. That's just a couple of months after Donald Trump has taken an oath of office as president of the United States. That article, Trump's collusion with Vladimir Putin, is not a theory. And you will find out also that there are a number of other articles that complementary to that one, which continue to outline why we believe that Donald Trump was in bed with Vladimir Putin. Since we began the conversation about last week about war on blacks and democracy in America, of course, we will continue with this conversation today. We will take this particular example we're talking about, the investigation into the Russia interference in the 2016 presidential election, as part of our conversation on democracy in America. We'll be right back. I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program, inviting you to join me every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. and every weekday at 2 p.m. for discussions of social political issues and to dissect the meaning and the importance of current events, as well as to understand topics of legislations. The Fourth Branch Project is not associated with any political party, and we at the Fourth Branch do not have any political agenda or aspiration. Our ultimate objective is to work towards achieving a more perfect union by removing ignorance, the biggest obstacle to our democracy. Join me on our next social media broadcast. See you then. The article that was just a few minutes ago presented to you, Trump's collusion with Vladimir Putin, is not a theory. Now, some people insulted me when I wrote that article. Remember, it was just 3 months within the Trump presidency that, after much research, analysis, interviews, I published that article. Yes, it was very early in the process, but it was also very clear to me that there is no possibility that Donald J. Trump, people do not change. And Donald Trump in particular cannot change. He is what he is. It's only millions of ignorant people, hopeful, probably some, a few of them, who would buy into the fact that Donald Trump could do something for them, or is speaking the truth, or will change as president of the United States. Just as a point of reference, so that you get a good understanding as to where I come from. When Donald Trump threw his hat into the race, the presidential race, I would say that I was the only individual writing who actually encouraged the idea of Donald Trump bidding for the presidency of the United States. I wasn't crazy, but because I personally believe it is important to break the norm in our presidential election, in our presidential campaign, in order to force individuals, candidates, to address issues that they may simply ignore, shrug off, that may not be important to them. As such, as outrageous as the statement that Donald Trump was making during that campaign, I personally welcome that idea. I was the lone wolf who actually believed that was a very good thing for the country. So for those who are so eager to put any label on me as if as they usually have, are so eager to put name and label on individuals who do not agree with them, damn liberal, libtards, and so on. I mean, you name it, I had it all. But that did not do anything to me. As I always tell people, names, you can call me whatever you want if it makes you feel good, but that's not going to change me personally. Name calling to me is not going to make me sick. It's not going to do anything physical to me. So I usually ignore them. But I address this issue because, like every American patriot, I believe it is my duty to contribute towards helping at least those who are willing to change, who are willing to listen to reason, so that we can save the Republic from rogue individuals such as Donald Trump and rogue supporters who do not have any concern for the Republic. Here's the way that I started this article. I'm not going to read it all because, as mentioned, we have two topics to debate. And one is democracy in America, which I take the opportunity to address this. And there is also another article I'd like to quickly point to and also give a read of at least the first paragraph. And remember that this article was written on April 4th, actually April 12, 2017. That's 3 months after Donald Trump took an oath of office. You may not recall the environment, the situation in the country. This is the time when things begin to sift into the public that it wasn't just Hillary Clinton that was under investigation, but Donald Trump also was under investigation, but for a reason that so far we fail to understand. James Comey revealed the Hillary Clinton investigation, but never revealed Donald Trump investigation. That aside. And there were a lot of spinning. The Trump team, the campaign, the team responsible, be it in the White House or contractor, consultant, political consultant, or the Fox, the propaganda machine for the Republican Party, Fox, the machine, the spinning machine, was at warp speed, trying to discredit every piece of information that came out. And that was also the time when you blink and you would get a tweet from Donald Trump calling the media fake news. It was blasted all over the airway. There was not a single tweet from Donald Trump who was not accusing the media of fake news. In fact, that also what prompted me to do a documentary comparing Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler. I strongly suggest you take a look on the People Branch YouTube channel for that as well. The comparison is warranted. Here it is, the first paragraph of that article. Trump, Russia collusion with Vladimir Putin is not a theory. Although the past few days may have put a damper publicly on the cozy Trump-Putin relationship, the duo have been extremely busy using government resources to cover up the highly successful crime of the century, hijack the US democracy and change the outcome of the presidential election. Now, point of reference, there were already a lot of articles by many different publications that began to show a coziness of relationship between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. And Donald Trump did not do anything to damper that, because he actually publicly was praising Vladimir Putin, and he actually was defending Vladimir Putin and was defending the fact that he was so cozy with him, so that you can get a point of reference. Now, here's the next sentence that pretty much put the nail on the coffin, as Donald Trump denying any type of relationship with Vladimir Putin. And it was emphasized, italicized, and also it was colored in blue if you're reading the article. It is now without doubt that Donald J. Trump colluded with Russian President Vladimir Putin to change the outcome of the 2016 US presidential election. According to an anonymous source, CIA, there is irrefutable proof. In case you don't know what irrefutable mean this is a phone. This is irrefutable proof. I have a phone in my hand. That Mr. Trump worked closely with Putin and associates to guarantee a certain outcome in the 2016 presidential election. Now, me asking the question to the individual source, the only question I had was, why FBI director doesn't just unveil the finding and advise the Department of Justice to file criminal charges against Mr. Trump and associate? Now, you can take your time and read the full article. It is probably 3-4 pages worth of reading, but it would be worth your time. There are plenty of references to what was being done at that time, both on the Trump side and on Vladimir Putin's side, in order to bury all possibility of information that could incriminate Donald Trump. I wrote that article April 12, 2017. Some people, those who weren't bashing me, weren't insulting me, weren't lambasting me, think I'm a prophet. Some think I have this ability to see things beyond everybody else. Because it's one thing you can write and come to a conclusion about certain aspect of certain information, but most people, most individuals who write, especially, it is pretty much ethical in the journalism world to not venture in trying to predict or to say things that may turn out not to be true. Of course, as you can see when you read that article, it is opinion based, some of it, but it is also factual. So I make some conclusion about facts that I have. Now, could my conclusion, the part where I express my opinion, could it be wrong? Of course it could be, but unlikely if based on those facts. And that's really the point. If, for instance, I said this phone was, unfortunately, it is not a good example because it has the label Samsung on the face of the phone. But the example would be that if there is no such label, and I say, for instance, this is Note 3, and I say this phone was built by Samsung, even if the name wasn't on the face of the phone, and I would base that on the fact that the line of product, Note 2 and company, this line of item of product rather was built by Samsung. So if I come to the conclusion, I'll take Note 9, for instance. Note 3 is a little bit too early in the game. But I'll take note 9, which just came out. Now, if I look at a note 9 phone and I see that phone, whether it has Samsung name on the face or not, and I say it was built by Samsung, it would be an opinion-based conclusion, right? Because there is nothing on the phone that would tell me that it's built by Samsung. However, because I also know that the line of product, Note cell phone, was built by Samsung, Note 2, 3, 4, and so on. So the conclusion, the opinion that I came up with based on that would be most likely going to be correct. Now, there is a slight chance that, well, wait a minute, before Note 9, Samsung may have sold that business to somebody else. That's possible. But my conclusion, my opinion is based on a number of facts that gathered, that studied, that analyzed, and that get me to that point. So it is very more possible for me to be right than to be wrong. That's what I meant by I expressed my opinion throughout the writing of that article, but my opinion was based on those facts that I collected along the way. Research, interviews, and so on. So I strongly encourage you read that article, and you would notice that as if that article was written a few days ago, because everything that you're going to read about that article would tell you that it's almost as if I already saw all those different development of what Mueller investigation is bringing forth. I'll be right back.
In 1996, a small network by the name of Fox News was launched with just 17 million viewers. Today, with over 100 million people watching regularly, Fox has become the greatest threat to our democracy, constantly bombarding the airwaves with false information, distortion of facts, and outright lies, presenting to its audience as news. Fox has created an army of blissful ignorance. According to a recent survey, 82% of Fox viewers are ignorant of facts and the truth. To keep millions of people in ignorance not only prevents democracy from flourishing, but it also clears the path to authoritarianism, to dictatorship. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." Let me finish by saying that democracy cannot survive in an environment where truth and facts do not matter. At Fox, truth and facts do not matter. Indeed, democracy in America is in jeopardy. It is a crisis the country can no longer ignore.
It is easy to just point finger to Donald Trump. because obviously he is the president of the United States. I must say, in all fairness, it is baffling that Donald Trump is not a smart man. He's street smart, he's a bully, he is a con man, he's able to maneuver his way around. He's a great liar. In fact, probably the greatest that has ever lived on this planet. He managed to convince millions of people that he has what it takes to do things great. He's going to make America great again. Nobody can argue that. But beyond that, in fact, that's what's so baffling about the whole thing. That we have an individual, you don't have to hold a degree, you don't have to have gone to college to understand that, but maybe that's the attraction to all those millions of people who see in Donald Trump an idiot that they can relate to. Maybe that's all it is. But whatever the case is, one thing that happened during the presidential election, the presidential campaign, during the race, cannot necessarily be attributed to intelligence or to fanaticism, to anything except lack of loyalty for the country, lack of patriotism. Republicans in particular, both legislators and Republican constituents, they like to claim labels such as they patriot because, you know, they stand and they put their hand on their chest during the national anthem. That makes them patriot. What a joke. The very definition of a patriot is someone who would put his life to defend the nation against all enemies, foreign or domestic. As it stands, that's a joke to say that you are a patriot when you actually go along with the enemy. What am I talking about? During the presidential race, I was screaming at the top of my lung for the Republican constituent to repudiate, to reject the advance by Julian Assange. Because at that time, Julian Assange proposed and promised to dump information that he collected about Hillary Clinton and the whole Democrat team, and those information will serve the purpose of damaging the Democrat Party. And what did the Republican do? Yes, cheers! Even Donald Trump himself stood there and praising WikiLeaks. I love WikiLeaks. They have at least hundreds of times during the time that Donald Trump was his campaign, his presidential race, the number of times that he said those words. That's not politics. Oh yes, everybody would like to win, but at the cost of our democracy. That's why when someone say, don't tell me who you are, don't tell me what you are, show me. Tell me you're a patriot. Tell me you're a Christian. Doesn't do anything, because behavior, actions clearly tell me that you neither. During the presidential race, Donald Trump, the leader of the Republican Party, the nominee at the time, slated to become the next president of the United States, felt comfortable with an enemy, praised the enemy, encouraged the enemy, and yet that was Donald Trump. But those who were supporting him was just cheering. Yes, WikiLeaks, do it. But when I tell those same individuals they're not patriot. Oh yeah, they would kill me because I'm telling them what they are not. Well, they want to say with the word they are patriot, but their action saying, no, you're no patriot. Because a patriot is someone who makes sacrifice necessary to preserve the integrity of the democracy in the country that they live, in the country they belong to. Those individuals did not do any sacrifice. In fact, they wouldn't hear of it. Is another article that I wrote that was April 4, 2017. Disloyalty to America gave us Donald Trump. Yes, disloyalty to America gave us Donald Trump. Here's the way I started that article. Donald Trump happens to America because of the entrenched disloyalty to the country. Most Republicans, emphasis on most, because it wasn't all of them, it was most of them. Most Republicans, including Republican legislators, yes, people who know legislation, who know and understand legislation. Those same individuals that are in Washington, those are not loyal to the United States of America. Gibberish, you might say or think. Okay, can you explain why they're all protecting the very individual who offers our sovereignty forbid to our number one enemy? Can you explain that? Can you explain why representatives such as Devin Nunes, Paul Ryan engage in cover-up for what could be the biggest scandal in the existence of the Republic? Can you explain that? Can you explain why Jason Chaffetz, the zealous Benghazi investigator, is now silent on issue of Trump collusion with Russia? Can you explain that? Of course not. But you are a patriot, of course. I strongly encourage you to read that article as well, because it will provide a lot of information as to what it takes to be a patriot and what it means to be such. Because as American, it is our duty, it is our sacred duty to protect the Republic from all enemies, foreign or domestic. As it stands today, individuals who do things that jeopardize the country, that jeopardize our institution, that trample our constitution, all those individuals, they are not patriot. They are not loyal to the country. And we as Americans, our job is to make certain those people pay the ultimate price of betraying the Republic. I'll be right back. Join me here on the 4th branch at 10:30 a.m. every Saturday. And every weekday at 2 p.m. This is the 4th branch.
Common sense in a world of chaos.
This program will resume in just a moment. Hi, I am MD, host of the 4th branch program. War on Blacks is a new topic added to the 4th branch programming in order to discuss the intricacies, the complexities of race relations in America. The goal is threefold. 1. To bring attention to the various forms of prejudice, discriminations, and racism in the country. 2. To expose the undeniable presence of such in every aspect of life and every corner of our society. 3. To extricate us all from the ignorance, the indifference, or the complicity. The ultimate objective is to make the discussions of those issues, racism, prejudice, discrimination, a normal part of our lives. Then, and only then, will we, as a society, be able to eradicate the problem. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." Abraham Joshua Heschel exclaimed, "Racism is man's gravest threat to man, the maximum of hatred for the minimum of reason." Join me in the journey to restore equality. Or would you please get out of the way? Thank you. In order to understand the notion of racism, discrimination, prejudice here in the United States or any other Western European country, one must travel far, very far back to the period of colonialism. Put differently, follow the money. Most everything in life, in fact, everything in life seems to hinge on that very old cliche. No wonder an important one-of-a-lifetime critical investigation such as the Russia's interference in our election also hinges on that very fact. You see, Robert Mueller, since he was picked to lead the investigation, has been pretty much following the money path, which also lead to whatever that would explain the crimes or the issue. As such, we are also taking that same route to understand this lingering problem in America, racism. Money, they say, is the root of all evil. Although this is proven to be true a million times. Most everyone who claim to be Christian and Christian conservative would not, however, hesitate to commit the most egregious act in order to accumulate wealth. Human trafficking, slavery, torture of witnesses, killing of crime partners were all normal course of business for the Bible-loving white Christian in early America. When we return, we will take a look at that very aspect of blacks' lives in the world in general, in America in particular. I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program, inviting you to join me every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. and every weekday at 2 p.m. for discussions of social political issues and to dissect the meaning and the importance of current events, as well as to understand topics of legislations. The Fourth Branch Project is not associated with any political party, and we at the Fourth Branch do not have any political agenda or aspiration. Our ultimate objective is to work towards achieving a more perfect union by removing ignorance, the biggest obstacle to our democracy. Join me on our next social media broadcast. See you then. According to historical record, slavery lasted 373 years. It started, according to record, that in 1492. It's a date that may not mean much to you, but Europe, there was this gentleman that we celebrate here every year. We even have a day off for it. It's Christopher Columbus. It's the day, according to historical record, that he discovered what they call the New World. Now, there is nothing wrong with exploring. We've been doing that here for quite some time. In fact, we are very curious as to what beyond our views, beyond the horizon. NASA is one such exercise that we've been making to explore other parts of the universe. It's actually good for society. It's good for expansion. It's good for our knowledge. It's just, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Now, as to when that happened, when Christopher Columbus set sail to leave Europe, Spain, and to go and find another world. I'm not going to be teaching history here, world history and all this. I just want to set the stage as to the path that was traveled and that makes the predicament that blacks are in today what it is. Because in order to solve a problem, I personally believe you have to be able to not only find its roots, understand how it started, and all the intricacies around that problem. In other words, break down the problem in smaller, manageable pieces. They teach us that in college, especially if you do a lot of math and if you do computer programming. One of the things that helps you to solve very complex problem is by breaking the problem down to very small pieces of small problem, and that makes it easy to solve. Maybe not a good example. In order to fill this, there is a small little hole on the top. Now it would be very hard for you to fill it by just dumping water in it, but you can start breaking down the problem by understanding that this small little hole would not let you put too much water at once. So you have to come up with some ways to devise some way to fill this bottle of water. Same approach we're going to take here with trying to understand why the war on blacks. So 1492, Christopher Columbus set sail, came to a new world, and later on, which we'll call America. All that is fine and dandy, but it wasn't done just to explore, but it was done with something else in mind. Now, at the time, there was belief that not only there is another part of the world, remember there were not enough technology to provide that kind of information, so the only way to find out is to actually go, and hopefully if you don't die, if you come back, you can come and tell the story. So it so happened that the story is, for sake of finding new opportunities, commerce, new land, etc., new product, and so on, Christopher Columbus was financed by the Queen of England and set sail and came to America and came to the New World, America. But it so happened that, well, when you discover new land and you discover new opportunities, and you see that there is the possibility of exploiting what you found, now you need labor, you need men to work whatever it is that you need to work. At that time, it was mostly really product of agriculture. Of course, they found gold and so on, etc., but all that needs to be mined. So it so happened that while this happened, of course, Christopher Columbus discovered America. And in the meantime, there were plenty of other expeditions in other parts of the world. Now, just 8 years later, there were shipments already of blacks that they hunted. Some got killed. Those who got captured were chained and transported to various parts of the world. And of course, America is one such place. Now, because the European countries were more advanced in military prowess, so they had the upper hand. Now, those individuals in Africa, they hunt with bow and tools that they make in order to kill, I guess, to hunt for food, and animals were part of the whole game. But they didn't have a way to fight someone who has a rifle. At that time, it wasn't really sophisticated, but they had a way that they could easily kill someone who is running. And of course, if quite a few of them died that way, because running away, and they got shot and they fell and they died. And of course, in human emotion, quite a few did not suffer the same fate, so they surrendered and they were chained and transported to various parts of the world, mostly Europe and America, to work the land, of course, for free. Now, here in the United States, the first slave that came here in the country that we call United States was in 1619. So Christopher Columbus discovered the New World, America, and there were plenty of slave trade across the world, Europe, of course, America, in terms of the continent, not necessarily the United States. But as far as the United States itself is concerned, the first shipment of slaves came in 1619, and that was actually in Jamestown, Virginia. Jamestown, Virginia. A Dutch ship brought 20 African slaves. At that time, Jamestown, Virginia belonged to the British colony. It belonged to Great Britain, rather. It was a British colony. Now, of course, those blacks, African, were captured. Those who made it through the journey, because quite a few of them died through the journey. Those who made it through the journey, after suffering, tortured, stamped like animals, they were delivered here in the United States of America as product, like a product. They can be purchased and sold. Now, I don't think it's necessary for me to point out that all those things were being done by whites. I think it's a moot issue, right? That I don't have to go and try to explain that it was the white European, who were involved in that business, business, slave trades. So blacks, African slaves, were considered as product that, as part of their journey to different parts of the world, they captured, they get whatever that they could get, whether it's product, whether it's gold, whatever they could get their hands on, including human. And they were chained, beaten, transported to land they never saw before, and forced to work against their own will. That's how it all started. 1619, Jamestown, Virginia, the first African slave arrived in the United States of America. The picture you're looking at is a rendering of that. They were being put at the bottom of the ship and pushed down there with their hand tied and chain on their feet, as you can see. And they will be on a journey, thousands of miles of journey towards a land not only they never saw, but their system, physical structure would suffer greatly. Some of them will die here in the country even after surviving this brutal journey. But as far as those whites were concerned, just a merchandise. And that's how it all started. A group of people, whites, went to another place in the world, captured individuals, treated them like animals, beat them, chain them, torture them, and transport them like animals to another part of the world. I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program, inviting you to join me every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. and every weekday at 2 p.m. for discussions of social political issues and to dissect the meaning and the importance of current events, as well as to understand topics of legislations. The Fourth Branch Project is not associated with any political party, and we at the Fourth Branch do not have any political agenda or aspiration. Our ultimate objective is to work towards achieving a more perfect union by removing ignorance, the biggest obstacle to our democracy. Join me on our next social media broadcast. See you then. Well, join me again. Thank you very much for spending the time with me. I hope it was educational and enlightening. I hope to see you again tomorrow when we will continue the conversation on war on blacks, as well as democracy in America. You have a good afternoon or a good evening, whichever it happened to be. Hi, I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program. War on Blacks is a new topic added to the Fourth Branch programming in order to discuss the intricacies, the complexities of race relations in America. The goal is threefold. 1. To bring attention to the various forms of prejudice, discriminations, and racism in the country. 2. To expose the undeniable presence of such in every aspect of life and every corner of our society. 3. To extricate us all from the ignorance, the indifference, or the complicity. The ultimate objective is to make the discussions of those issues, racism, prejudice, discrimination, a normal part of our lives. Then, and only then, will we, as a society, be able to eradicate the problem. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. Abraham Joshua Heschel exclaimed, "Racism is man's gravest threat to man, the maximum of hatred for the minimum of reason." Join me in the journey to restore equality. Or would you please get out of the way? Thank you. The Fourth Branch Podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the People Branch publication, which can be found on the People Branch website, located at peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org website, in which you will find a number of very interesting articles. My name is Mike Duchesne, MD for short. I hope you have a great afternoon or a great evening, whichever it happens to be. Hopefully you can join me again next time for another interesting episode of this podcast. That was the Fourth Branch, live from New York. Good day.